Welcome everyone to yet another session. The word we are seeing here is circumstantial, right? So circumstantial means pointing towards someone's guilt, but not proving it, right? Or you can also say indirect. The case against McCarthy is based largely on circumstantial evidence, right? So circumstantial evidence means you're pointing towards someone who is guilty, but you are not able to prove it, okay? So it's like an indirect evidence. You can't convict a man of a crime on circumstantial evidence alone. That means you can't blame a person, you can't find someone guilty based on your guesses. You need proof for that, and if you do not have evidence, that means you're you're blaming someone, so that is on circumstantial basis. All right, most of the data was circumstantial, so no conclusions could be drawn. That means most of the data was indirect. Okay, it was not a proof of anything rigid, so the conclusions, that means results, could not be drawn. So circumstantial means pointing towards someone's guilt but not being able to prove it, or it can also be synonymous to indirect. All right. Okay. Let's look at our next word, clangor. Right now, clangor means a continuous loud banging or ringing sound, right? You must be aware of those continuous ringing of alarms in the morning that you keep snoozing, right? So as you can see, this alarm clock shows a continuous ringing, right? And this ringing seems actually like a loud banging sound in the morning, right? So clangor is a continuous loud banging or ringing sound. Just now, there was a sudden terrible clangor in the castle. That means in the castle, there was a sudden loud banging sound. The alarm bells grew louder in their metallic clangor, right? So the alarm bells kept ringing louder and louder, okay? He went deaf because of the clangor of the steam hammers. Now, because of the steam hammers, there was such a loud banging sound that he went deaf. So clangor means a continuous loud banging or ringing sound. This is pronounced as clangor. We don't pronounce the R, okay? So it's not clangor, it's clangor, okay? Without the R sound. All right. Let's see our next word, cloak. Now, you might have seen many superheroes wearing cloaks, right? So this is exactly that. This is a cloak, a loose outer garment or something that covers or hides another thing, right? So a loose outer garment, right? That superheroes also wear, or you must have seen in Harry Potter, they used to wear cloaks all the time, right? For their classes. She is wearing a red cloak with a hood, right? So if you remember, Little Red Riding Hood would go around wearing a red cloak, right? He has always kept his love affairs cloaked in secrecy. Now, you can also use the word cloak other than being a garment. You can use it in the sense to say that something is hidden, right? Or something is covered. For example, he has always kept his love affairs cloaked in secrecy means hidden away in secrecy. The restaurant he owned was just a cloak for his drug dealing activities. That means the restaurant this person had was just a way to hide his drug dealing activities. In reality, he was dealing drugs and he was using the restaurant as a cloak. That means as a cover, right? So cloak can be used to say that it's a cover for something, like cover for hiding something, and cloak is also a loose outer garment. Okay? All right, let's look at our next word, clumsy. right? So you must have come across a lot of people who are clumsy. Clumsy means not skillful in the way you deal with or express something, right? Clumsy is sort of like you're awkwardly falling all the time, or you are making things fall out of your hand, things are breaking because of you. So you can say, you're walking and you're hitting things and then they are falling on the ground and breaking, so you're clumsy, right? Or if you're not able to express yourself properly, then also you can be called clumsy, right? So that's the third class you smashed today. You're so clumsy, right? So if you keep going around breaking things, right, your mom must be shouting on you, like, you're so clumsy, you keep breaking things, right? He tried to dance, but he was too clumsy and awkward. Now, if someone is dancing and they keep stepping on someone else's foot, that means they are clumsy, okay? Sometimes you become clumsy because you're feeling nervous, or maybe you're feeling awkward in a certain company, right? So yeah, he tried to dance, but he was too clumsy, right? He was not skillful in dancing. So when you're not skillful in an activity and you're not doing it the way it is supposed to be done, then you can be called as clumsy. Her clumsy handling of the situation only made it worse, right? That means her unskilled handling of the situation made the situation worse, right? So clumsy is handling something in a not so skillful way, right? Or not being able to express something properly is clumsy, right? All right. Let's look at our next word. Coalesce, right? So coalesce means to combine into a single group or thing, right? So it's like, okay, you might be knowing of laces on your shoes, right? So let's say there is a lace and you are, combining it. So coalesce, right? To combine into a single group or thing. As you can see here, you can say that these are two, if you're aware of atoms, or let's say these are just two, let's say two gel balls, all right, and they are trying to combine into a single unit. So when this purple and orange ball combine, now they are a single unit, right? They are like this one unit now. They are not two separate entities. So two things combining to become one, right? So you say in such a case, the two things coalesced, right? Or to unite into a whole. Two things uniting to become one whole object. The theory is that galaxies coalesced from smaller grouping of stars. That means galaxies were formed from small groups of stars coming together to form the larger galaxy, right? So a union of small grouping of stars, that means a coalesce of small grouping of stars, resulted in a galaxy. Their interests coalesced around the question of landlessness, right? So that means there were two people and they both were not having any land with them. So their matter of discussion used to be always the question of being landless. So they both combined their resources, or let's say they united over this topic. So we can say they coalesced over this question. A group of young reformers who coalesced into a political movement, right? So you might have seen multiple small parties, they coalesce together to form a larger party, right? So in political movements, you might see young reformers coming together, or let's say uniting to form a party, right? So that is also coalesce. Coalesce, right? Two people coming together, or two things coming together to form one whole thing, okay? Uniting to become a whole, or combining into a single group or thing, all right? That is coalesce. All right, let's see our next word. Cogent, right? Now, cogent means logical and convincing. Cogent, right? Cogent means logical and convincing, or persuading people to believe in something. The lawyer's cogent arguments convince the jury, right? So if you're talking about anything and your speech seems logical, your speech is persuasive, it's convincing, then you say you are a cogent person, or your speech is cogent, your arguments are cogent, right? So cogent means logical and convincing, or something that can persuade someone else to believe in your idea, right? So the lawyer's cogent arguments, the lawyer's logical and convincing arguments, actually convinced the jury. So because they were so convincing, the jury got convinced. He makes a cogent argument for improving the healthcare system. That means he made an argument regarding the healthcare system, and the argument was persuasive. That means it actually made the jury or anyone who was listening agree upon his arguments. All right. She put forward some cogent reasons for abandoning the plan, right? So there was some person, she wanted to abandon the plans, and she put forth some logical and convincing reasons. So what did she put forth? She put forth cogent reasons, logical and convincing, right? Reasons that you can't say no to. All right. Okay. So that is cogent, logical and convincing, or persuading people to believe in something. Such arguments are cogent, right? Okay, let's see our next word. Coherent. Now, coherent means logical and consistent, right? That was logical and persuasive, right? So this is logical and consistent. Expressing yourself clearly, the skill of being able to express yourself clearly is called as coherence, right? So this is an important aspect of speech that is also assessed during IELTS exams, right? So coherence is one of the factors on which they judge you. So now you understand what is coherence. Coherence is your ability to express yourself clearly. Is your speech clear enough to be comprehensible by your listeners, right? Or are you just messing it all up? You're combining everything and saying something at one point and then suddenly you're changing to some other topic. So that is called loss of coherence in your speech, right? So logical and consistent means coherent, or if you're able to express yourself clearly, you are coherent, right? The government lacks a coherent economic policy, right? So if the government does not have an economic policy that is logical and consistent, that means they're lacking a coherent economic policy. Their views coalesced to form a coherent policy. Coalesced came together. Their views united to form a coherent policy. Coherent policy, a policy that is logical and consistent, right? He proposed the most coherent plan to improve the schools. That means this person, he put forth the most logical and consistent plans in order to improve the condition of schools, right? So coherent means logical and consistent, right? It can also mean if you are expressing yourself clearly, you are coherent. So it is yet another adjective, right? So that is coherent. Let's move to our next word, and that would be collusion, right? Now, collusion means a secret or illegal cooperation or conspiracy to deceive others. If you are secretly cooperating with someone for illegal affairs, or a secret or an illegal cooperation with someone, or conspiring with someone to deceive someone else, right? A conspiracy to deceive someone or a secret or illegal cooperation is called as a collusion, right? So it's like two people coming together. So the base word here is co, right? You're seeing here in collusion, we have co, that means coming together. In Coalesce, we had co, again coming together, right? So you can understand that words having the root word co are related to coming together, like combining or coming together, right? So that is collusion. Now in just want to quickly tell you, in coherent also we were talking about bringing together something that was logical and consistent. In cogent also we are talking about, you know, bringing out logical and convincing arguments, right? So co is the root word that you are using for bringing forth or combining or coming together, right? So collusion, a secret or illegal cooperation, or we can also say a conspiracy. The money lenders are often in collusion with the mafia, right? So the money lenders, people who lend money, they are often cooperating with the mafia. So this is an illegal cooperation. Therefore, we are saying they are colluding with mafia, or they are in collusion with the mafia, right? The police were operating in collusion with the drug dealers. Now, if the police is helping the drug dealers, that means this is an illegal cooperation. They should not be doing this. But if they are doing it, we'll say the police were in collusion with the drug dealers, right? That means they were in illegal or a secret cooperation. The companies were accused of acting in collusion to fix prices, right? So the companies were blamed, accused of means blamed, of acting in, you know, cooperation to fix prices, right? Okay. All right. So collusion, an illegal cooperation or a conspiracy to deceive others. All right. Let's look at our next word. Commensurate. Commensurate means corresponding in size or degree. That is commensurate, right? It could be that you're corresponding one thing with another in terms of size, degree, or in proportion, right? You can also say something that is suitable in amount. For example, salary will be commensurate with age and experience. That means you'll get your salary in accordance of your age and your experience. So commensurate means something which is corresponding to a certain aspect. Now the aspects could be size, degree, you know, your age, experience, right? So commensurate means corresponding one thing to another thing. Like your salary will commensurate with age and experience. That means your salary will correspond to what's your age and how much is your experience. High footfalls don't always translate into commensurate sales, right? So it's not that high footfalls will always get converted to a suitable in amount sale. So we can say commensurate also means suitable in amount, right? Something that is in a certain amount that is suitable to your needs. Okay. Workload has increased without any commensurate increase in staff. That means workload has increased, but there has not been a corresponding increase in the staff. So in order to say corresponding increase, I'll say a commensurate increase, right? So commensurate means a corresponding increase in something or a corresponding ratio of something in different aspects, like maybe in size, degree, proportion, maybe according to age or experience. If you're getting your salary, then salary will be commensurated or corresponded with age and experience, right? So you can say commensurate really means to correspond something. All right. Okay. All right. Compel. Now, must have done that a lot with your friends, right? You can see this person, you can do it. He's like, I can't. He's like, you can do it, right? So this person is really, you know, forcing his friend to do something that he doesn't really want to do, or wants to do but is not able to do, right? So compel means to force someone to do something or urge someone forcefully to do something, right? So the law will compel employers to provide health insurance, right? So the law says that the employers will provide health insurance to their employees. That means the law is forcing the employer to provide health insurance to their respective employees, right? So you can also use compel in such a manner where you just want to say that someone or something forced another thing to do something. So the law will compel means the law will force the employers to give health insurance to their employees. You cannot compel good work from unwilling students. That means you can't force unwilling students. You can't force them to bring good work. So if a student is unwilling to do something, you can't really force them to do it, right? At school, we were compelled to wear uniforms, which I hated. Now, if in your school you used to hate wearing uniforms and you still had to because you were being compelled, that means you were being forced to wear that uniform, right? Forced to do something even though you didn't want to do it, right? So that is compel, right? You can remember it somehow like this, like you're telling your pal means a friend, right? You're telling your friend, come, let's do this thing. We can do it, right? You're forcing them to do it. So compel means to force someone to do something, just like this guy here. He's forcing his friend, right, to do something. Okay. So that is compel. All right. Let's look at the revise part. Okay, so the revised part is going to include all the words yet again. Now we'll quickly cover them. First one would be compel, as we just read, to force someone to do something, okay, or to urge someone to do something forcefully, right? So you compelling your friends to maybe talk to the teacher because you forgot your homework, or maybe you're compelling your parents to buy you something, forcing them, right? So that is compel. Okay, then commensurate means to correspond something in different aspects. Now if you are corresponding someone's salary according to age and experience, that means you are commensurating their salary, or you are commensurating their, if not salary, then you're commensurating maybe workload according to other aspects. So if you're commensurating anything, that means you are corresponding that thing to a variety of aspects or maybe one aspect, right? Collusion means a secret or illegal cooperation. It can also mean a conspiracy to deceive others. Now if two people are cooperating with each other for an illegal purpose, or they are doing something secretly which is illegal, right? Maybe like selling drugs or dealing with terrorists, or such things would be called as collusion, right? Such team ups, such cooperations would be called as collusion. The money lenders are often in collusion with the mafia. That means they are in illegal cooperation with the mafia. This is something that should not have been done, but is still being done. That means it's a collusion. It's a cooperation that is illegal. It's a collusion, right? Coherent means logical and consistent. A coherent speech means a speech that is logical. That means, it's clear, it's consistent, right? If you are able to express yourself clearly, that is called as being coherent, right? Or coherent is also used for things that are logical and consistent. For example, a policy is coherent. That means the policy is logical and consistent, right? If you are coherent, that means you are having the ability to express yourself clearly, right? Also, the word coherence comes from the word coherent. Coherence is just the ability to express yourself clearly, right? So Presence of coherence in your speech is essential to speak fluent English and is also a major assessment part in IELTS exams as well, like in most of the exams, right? Okay. Cogent. Cogent means logical and convincing, or an argument that can persuade people to believe, right? So if something is convincing, something is persuasive, it is called as cogent. So if your arguments are able to convince someone, that means your arguments are cogent, right? If your ideas are able to persuade people to believe in them, then what is it? Your ideas are cogent, right? Okay. Coalesce. Coalesce means to come together, right? To combine into a single unit. So if there are two things or maybe a group of things and they are coming together, they're combining to form a single unit. That means they are coalescing, right? Two things coalesce here, they are coalescing, right? A purple and an orange ball coming together to form one single unit, or different political parties joining hands to form one single party would also be called as a coalesce, right? The parties coalesced. Okay. Clumsy. If you are one of those people who go around knocking things down and breaking them, or you keep falling most of the time while walking, so you are clumsy. So that means you do not have the ability to perform something skillfully. All right. So if you're not good at dancing, you keep stepping on people's feet, that means you are clumsy dancer. You're a clumsy dancer, right? Or if you're not able to express yourself clearly, then also you can be called as clumsy. Okay, for example, sometimes I lose words. I'm not sure what I want to say. So at that moment, I'll say, I was so clumsy, I couldn't express myself, right? And your mom would always say this. If you keep going around the house breaking things, she'll say, you're so clumsy, you keep breaking things, right? So that is clumsy. As you can see, these broken pieces of glass here must have been done by a clumsy person. Okay, so yeah, thankfully I'm not that clumsy. So yeah, if you know anyone who is clumsy, please tell them this is what clumsy means and please stop being one. All right. Okay. Then is cloak. Cloak is an outer garment, a loose outer garment that you must have seen superheroes wear, right? So cloak is a piece of garment. A cloak is also something that covers or hides something. So you can use the word cloak in terms of it being a garment, and you can also say that cloak means to hide something or to cover something, right? So to cloak something means to hide it, to cover it. For example, you should not cloak his misdeeds. That means you should not cover his misdeeds, right? You should not cover whatever wrong he's doing. So cloak can be used as a verb. That means to cover something, and cloak can also be used as a noun. That means a piece of garment, right? That is cloak. Clangour. It's not clangor, it's clangour, right? Without the pronunciation of R in the end. Let's say the R is silent in the pronunciation. Clangour means a continuous loud banging or ringing sound, right? So those alarms that you've set in the night and they start ringing in the morning, that is a clangour for your ears, right? Or maybe a loud banging sound of a machine, right, in a factory. So those things are also called as clangour, right? Clangour can deafen you. Clangour means a loud banging sound can deafen you, or clangour can irritate you when it's coming from your alarm, right? Although you set it to wake up, but yeah, it's irritating. I get it. So clangour, right? A continuous loud banging or ringing sound. Circumstantial. Circumstantial means pointing towards someone's guilt, but not being able to prove it, or indirect. If you are trying to blame someone, but you do not have proof for it, you're lacking evidence, then your, if you're trying to convict someone, your conviction is circumstantial. You do not have evidence for it. That means you don't have any proof for it. So it is circumstantial, right? It is just based on the circumstance at that time. You don't really have a proof or evidence to show that it's really that person who's guilty. All right. So circumstantial means indirect or pointing towards someone's guilt, but not being able to prove it. All right. Thank you for joining the lesson.